And welcome back, rugby fans, to Rugby 411. As always, I'm your host. My name is Joshua Shibata, and I want to apologize for the lateness of this post. Most of you are probably not going to be able to see this until Saturday morning, which is the day, a big day for USA rugby fans in general. Because this is a very important game. It is one of the last Rugby World Cup qualifying games before the final qualification tournament, which we'll get into later. But this is game 2 between USA and Chile to determine the America's number 2 spot in the Rugby World Cup, which will be played next year, 2023, in France. This game is tomorrow, Saturday, July 16th, 2022, taking place in Infinity Park, Colorado. Kickoff is 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You can watch it on FlowRugby.com. So again, I know it's Saturday. It could be Saturday today. Hopefully you East Coast fans will have time to catch this if you want to before the game. I feel this is going to be a pretty good primer. The reason why this video came out so late was because it took forever for both USA and Chile to finally put up their starting lineups. Chile, for whatever reason, didn't put up their final lineup for the first game until literally the day of. But now I have the lineups for USA and Chile. It makes it a little bit easier to kind of preview a game if you can tell who's playing. But let's go back to the first game, and what a game. If you missed out, and again, we won't go into great details because already so many people and so many websites have done it. But just to recap, USA squeaked by to beat Chile 22-21 in a nail-biter, which had everything. Had tries, had TMOs calling tries back, had downpour of rain, and even had an outage, a power outage, that put the game on hold. There's some conspiracy theorists of exactly how that happened, especially conveniently enough in Chile Stadium while America was on the verge of scoring. But in the end, America held on to win game 1 by 1 solid point, which, the way that this works for a qualifier, it's a 2-game set, and it's not necessarily about who wins the most games. Obviously, if you win both games, is great, but it's by an aggregate score. So whoever scores the most points overall in those 2 games wins. So really, with USA just winning by 1 point, and that was by a literal last-second try scored by Santiago Vidiella, who is the man for Chile. Not only did he score that last-second try, he also kicked 3 penalty kicks. He also served in the sin bin for a little bit, so that just shows you how great he was when he was on the pitch. But with America only winning by 1 point, literally kind of makes that game moot, because, Chile wins by 1 point, the teams are tied. Chile just needs to win by something more than 1. Chile wins the series overall. If USA wins, series is obviously goes to USA, and they win that final, that America's 2 qualification spot in the Rugby World Cup. If the teams are tied at the end of game number 2, this one playing tomorrow, where again Chile wins by only 1 point, which makes both of the teams equal in point aggregate. I believe it goes by tries scored, which is interesting because in game number 1, USA scored 3 tries, 1 by Christian Dyer, 1 by hooker Joey Tafuete, and 1 by backup hooker Capelli Pifiletti. And Chile scored 2 tries, as I mentioned before, 1 by Santiago Vidiella, and then 1 by Rodrigo Fernandez. So Chile is only down by 1 try. It will go to whoever scores as many tries, and then I'm not quite sure after that. I mean, again, Chile only needs to win by more than 1 point, which seems more logical if Chile wins to be able to do that. I kind of doubt that this will end in a tie, but I mean, it just shows you USA and Chile really played very close, very aggressive. I mean, again, the weather played a huge factor into that. Obviously, it even gave a power outage. So now the game is being played in Colorado, where rain is not predicted until Sunday. So not stormy conditioning, but I mean, Colorado, if you've ever been there, high elevation, so a little bit difficult to play, hard to breathe, and rugby's a very physical game. A lot of humidity though. So Not necessarily great conditions either, so it's going to be challenging, I feel, for both sides. What we'll do is we're going to go over, like I mentioned before, we have both sides that are have posted their rosters. Let's go with the simplest one, and I'll explain that again in a little bit when we go to Chile's roster. But let's go over Gary Gould's USA Eagles squad. Boom, for game number 2. It is literally the same roster as game number 1. Says a lot of the confidence with head coach Gary Gould. The only change is in the bench spot, number 21, Moni Tanguahia steps in for Tavita Tamilau. Don't know if it's because Tavita might have got injured during game number 1, but Moni is stepping in for number 2. Let's just go down the roster of players. At your prop spots are David Ayanu and Paul Mullen, 1 and 3. Number 2 is the before-mentioned hooker from the LA Guillotine, Jota Fuete. Your locks are Greg Peterson, Nick Savetta. Flankers, Benjamin Bonasso and Hanko Hermesheis, great player. 8 is Cam Dolan, the most capped Eagle, as well as has now 50 wins as an Eagle. I believe that's the most wins by any Eagle for Team USA. So congratulations, Cam Dolan. That's a great accomplishment. Number 9, the scrum half, a very talented Ruben De Haas. Number 10, the captain, AJ McGinty, who unfortunately wasn't exactly on the mark in game number 1. He did miss 2 kicks, 1 penalty goal, 1 conversion kick. Could have made a difference, honestly, with a game as close as it was in game number 1. Your wingers are Martin Iosefo and Christian Dyer, very talented wingers. Bryce Campbell, former captain of the Eagles, and Tavita Lopeti, who was just named MLR Rookie of the Year. Congratulations, Tavita, who are your centers, and then your fullback at the number 15 position, Marcel Bracchi. On the bench, Capelli Pefiletti, who I just mentioned before, scored the try in game number 1. Chance Wingluski from Rugby New York. Angus McClellan. Sayosi Mahoney is number 19. Jason Dam, who just, from Rugby ATL, who just earned his first cap in game number 1. Congratulations to you, Jason Dam. Possibility of earning his second cap if he comes off the bench. As I mentioned before, Tavita Tamilo is the only change in this roster from game number 1. And then Nate Osberger and Luke Carty are 22 and 23. Now, let's bring up Team Chile. And boom, quite a change from game number 1, which really says a lot. Because game number 1, again, Chile only lost by 1 point. It was a very, very close game, but there's a lot of changes that head coach Pablo Lemoyne put into effect. Pablo Lemoyne, by the way, had a rugby career, 48 caps for Uruguay from 1995 to 2010. Also played in France and England. Once he took over for Team Chile as head coach back in 2018, he's been 5-10 is his overall record, though 4-2 last year, including 2 wins against Canada, which earned Team Chile a spot in this play-in game for the Americas number 2 spot. Now, let's go over the roster. Now, I'm not super familiar with the Chile players. A lot of the information I got is from a great website called America's Rugby News. Brian Ray, who's on Twitter, is the gentleman that runs it. Very, very great guy. America Rugby News, if you get a chance to go on it, it has everything to do with rugby in Americas. So North and South America, and including MLR. He's really, really good keeping facts, figures, and again, being on top of the players in South America where not too many people outside of the Spanish community can get, but Brian Ray was able to post all this information on all the players, so all the information I have is courtesy of him. Again, check him out, americasrugbynews.com. So, first of all, your first 3, your front row completely changed. The 3 players that are playing as backup, Salvador Luis, Diego Escobar, and Vittorio Lastra. By the way, apologies if I'm butchering your guys' names. Really sorry. Those 3 were on the bench game number 1. They are starting for game number 2. Number 4, coming off of the bench, Thomas Orchard, 25 years old, 11 caps. He debuted in 2018. He is playing for Santiago Pedrero, who I don't know if he was injured, but is not on the roster for game number 2. At the other lock position, Javier Eastman, He is the biggest player on the roster, 6'7", 255 pounds, 25 years old, 16 caps to his name. By the way, you'll see with the caps, a lot of these players on Chile are very, very young teams. So really impressive how young this Chile team is, and is given a team. Granted, Team USA is not exactly full of vets either, but really shows just the quality of players in Chile, really going toe-to-toe with Team America. The captain is the number 6 position, Martin Sigrin. 2019, he took over as captain at only 22 years old. He is now 26. He has 23 caps under his name. He is apparently the best all-around athlete on the team. So make sure to watch, if you're watching the game, watch out for the number 6 player on Team Chile. The other flanker position is Ignacio Silva. He is the former captain, 33 years old, second most caps on the team at 33. He's coming off of the bench as well. Coming off of injury is the number 8 player, Alfonso Escobar. He is the brother to he's the brother to Diego Escobar, the hooker. He is coming off of injury. He wasn't able to play in game number 1. He is able to suit up for game number 2, 24 years old, 14 caps. Also coming off of the bench, the number 9 spot, Marcelo Torres Sala, who was the Chilean Sevens Player of the Year, super fast. He also plays 3 years for the Gilgronis as well. So for some Gilgronis fans, Marcelo Torrealba is a well-known commodity. Number 10, he scored a try in game number 1, Rodrigo Fernandez. He is back at the fly half position, very fast. He is an active player for the Chilean Sevens team, 26 years old, 15 caps. Moving from the fullback position to the winger position, Santiago Vidiala, who I've mentioned before, was the man on Chile in game number 1. Scored by himself 16 points for Chile. That's almost all the points for Chile in game number 1. 24 years old, 20 caps. Usually plays at fullback or at the fly half position, but he moved over to the winger because I'll get to who came in at number 15, but Santiago Videla is now playing on the winger position, stepping in for Franco Valverde, who is not on the roster in game number 2. Pablo Casas, who was not playing in game number 1, steps in the center at the number 12 position. Normally plays in Portugal, joins the team here for Chile. He also played 5 years in Russia before coming back. 30 years old, 11 caps. He is playing in for Jose Ignacio Lorenz, who is now on the bench. Number 13 and 14, the center and winger combination are brothers Matias Garafulik and Nicholas Garafulik. 21 years old and 23 years old respectable. Matias was the standout under-20s player and actually the captain as well of that team when he was playing for them. So 13 and 14, they played in game number 1. They still start in game number 2. Very highly touted players. And then coming back from injury as well, number 15, the fullback, Francisco Uroz. That's why Santiago Videla got moved up to the winger position. Very fast sevens player, 28 years old, 8 caps. A guy that head coach Pablo Lemoyne is very high on. So might have to watch out for him at number 15 if you're watching the game. So now again, the whole bench on Team Chile were starting in the prior game. So again, interesting tactic from head coach Pablo Lemoyne. Don't know if it's a lack of faith or just wanting to give the starters a rest and giving the bench players the chance to start. We'll find out if that change in tactics plays off. So, 16, 17, 18, your backup front row, Augusto Bohm, who played for the Seattle Seawolves and the Dallas Jackals during last year's MLR season, 25 years old, 17 caps. Javier Carrasco is at the number 17, and Matias Ditas is the number 18 position. Staying on the bench at number 19, Augusto Sarmiento. Number 20, Clemente Savadero, who plays for Spain. 24 years old, 15 caps. 21, Raimundo Martinez. 22, Jose Ignacio Lorenz. He is the most capped player for Team Chile. 32 years old, 44 caps. 23 is Lucas Carvalho, youngest player on the team at only 21 years old. He was the captain of the Chile A squad last year at just a young age of 20. So he is a guy that the Chilean team is very, very high on for the future of their sport. So that is Team Chile, and again, Team USA playing again tomorrow, 12 p.m. kickoff time at Infinity Park, Colorado. Originally, seats 5,000 people. Originally was told that tickets were sold out. A couple days ago, some extra tickets just went on sale. So if you're in the Colorado area, again, I know you might be rehearing this on Saturday. You might still have time. Go buy tickets. Check out this game. Super, super important game. Again, as I mentioned before in last week's video, by the way, thank you for everybody that checked out that video. Very, very appreciative of your support. This isn't USA's last chance, or technically Chile's last chance, in making the Rugby World Cup. USA has a chance, even if they lose this game. And again, Chile has the same chance if they lose the game as well. Let's go over. I went over briefly in the prior video what the options are after this game is played. But let's go over what could happen and where USA can wind up in the Rugby World Cup that is played next year in France. So, if USA wins, they are going to fall into Pool D as the America's #2 rep. Bam. And there's your Pool D. And man, it's a stiff competitive pool. You have England, who are Rugby World Cup winners. You have Japan, who are world beaters. You have Argentina, who has become very, 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 very talented team. And then the hard-hitting Samoans. So, for selfish reasons, because I'm also a Team Japan supporter, I would love for USA to fall into Pool D, because then it gives me a chance to see both of my teams play against each other, which is always fun. But it is a tough pool. Again, Japan can beat anybody. They've proven that many, many times. Argentina is a team on the rise, and England, of course, are Rugby World Cup winners. They've always played the World Cup tough. They rarely ever miss making it into the final 8. So that's going to be a tough pool for USA. Now, if USA does not win, they are not out of the World Cup yet. They have one last chance in the final qualifier tournament, which will be played in November. It's going to be competing between 4 teams. And those 4 teams, right now, 2 of them have been determined. One of them is Kenya. One of them is Portugal. Team number 3 is also going to be determined this coming weekend between Tonga and Hong Kong. The loser of that game falls into this final qualification tournament, along with whoever loses this game. They are then going to play in a 4-team round-robin tournament in November for that one last Rugby World Cup qualifying spot. And if Team USA happens to fall into that qualifying tournament, and if USA happens to win that final qualifying tournament, they will wind up in Pool, bam, C. And C, maybe a little bit easier, maybe. You have Wales. You have Australia, who are 2-time Rugby World Cup champions themselves. You have Fiji, who are always tough. And then the upstart Georgian team. So, in my opinion, not necessarily as hard a pool as Pool D, but still some very tough teams. Wales is very tough. Australia is obviously very tough. 2-time World Cup winners. And Fiji is very tough as well. Georgia is kind of on the same level as maybe as the USA. So that might be the team on the same level as them. So Pool C technically is a little bit of an easier option if USA happens to fall into that. Now, of course, Chile also has that option too. If Chile loses, they fall into the final qualification tournament. They will play a spot for Pool C. So that is where we're standing. And again, this is a great shot for Team USA. With us hosting a Rugby World Cup in 2031 for the men, 2033 for the women's. It will still be very, very important for USA to make the World Cup before that one. The 2 World Cups before, because then there's one more in Australia before USA hosts one. USA needs to make these World Cups. It needs to get the interest in the public, and what better interest in seeing Team USA represented in the Rugby World Cup playing next year in France. So again, check it out if you can. FlowRugby.com is where you can watch the game. USA versus Chile. Unless you're in Colorado, it's at Infinity Park. Buy tickets. They are still available. And again, enjoy. Thank you very much for watching this video. Hope you watch the game. Go USA. And I'll see you on the pitch.